Good. So, yeah, just check.
All live stream, they're all good, ready to go?
Yes. Is there any detriment to starting early?
Yeah, all right.
Oh, somebody's
trying to come or what?
Get 1 minute.
You get a minute.
1 minute.
No. I just found things all I have.
I appreciate that.
That extra minute couldn't. I'll tell you, that extra minute can mean a lot. We were up at Weir's Beach. No,
You're good now. Yep.
No stories.
Okay. Boy, he has a way of cutting me right off. He's learning.
All right, let's go.
Good evening, everybody. As chair of the Northwood Select Board, I'm calling this meeting to order at 6 p.m. with a roll call. Jim.
Here.
Matt.
Present.
Tim.
Present.
And Hal Kreider. Would everybody who can please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm looking around. I don't see any citizens present. Did we get any emails for Citizens Forum?
Not for Citizens Forum. No.
Okay. Then I'm going to ask if the board would mind moving the Loon Estate Co-op subordination request right up front. Anybody have a problem with me doing that?
Nope.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we requested some additional information, and thank you. It all looks quite good, so we're happy about that. We also did get, I believe through Walter, a copy of the appraisal, and I just want folks to note that the appraisal may not be the same as the assessed value, and that happens, actually quite frequently. But now that we have it, that may get looked at by the assessment, the assessor, and if there's appropriate adjustments, then you'll hear about that and obviously have a chance to discuss and contest. But we just appreciate getting all the information. It looked good. I'm going to open it up. Does anybody have any questions about the subordination request or anything like that?
No, like I said, it's all pretty much what looking for.
The only thing I would ask is whether or not you would be amenable to a letter of understanding saying that in the very unlikely event of a default, that you would assist the town in trying to recover that money. And I'm thinking not necessarily, take it out of the folks that live there, but like take, for instance, if we have to apply and send information to the federal government and say, hey, here's the situation, we'd like to be reimbursed or cover those costs, it would be helpful to know that you would support us in those types of efforts. Does something like that seem amenable to you, or would you be willing to consider that? Come on up.
I don't know if that's turned on yet, not, sir, so.
Just
You
slide
know
it-
what?
slide it up on-
Identify yourself first, too, please.
It's got to turn it on first.
Oh, sorry.
Al?
A little closer, please.
I'm attorney Glenn Raish, representing Loon Estates Cooperative. And the question was whether we'd be amenable to assisting the town with communications with the federal government
Or reports.
or
that need to
reports
file,
that may
things
be
like that.
necessary or required by the government in the event of a default. And there was some question about the viability of the loan or the grant.
Or whatever, or
Right.
like, let's say we apply for a grant to cover us or something like that.
Correct. I think that's a relatively straightforward answer, and if I'm not, if I'm if I'm okay to speak on behalf of the cooperative without actually consulting with my clients first about that issue, I would say that that wouldn't be an issue whatsoever, because I believe, and I don't have the specific site or paragraphs from the original agreements, but I believe there's an obligation to cooperate in the event that that occurred, contained within those documents anyway. And certainly, there would be a lot of nervous folks in the event that that the cooperative was even close to a situation where a default might occur. And everybody would be scrambling, so to speak, hopefully talking to their attorney to try and make sure that that doesn't occur. And that would be kind of almost without saying. So, yeah, I can answer the question in the affirmative.
So,
Not a problem.
so then I'm going to propose to the board that we approve the subordination subject to you, Walter, working out a simple, document that just confirms what we just said.
Something for the file.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Not
that
a
way,
problem.
you can move on, we can move on, and I think you're covered then.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion with the, how do they do it at the planning board? With the, it's not a contingency, what do they call that?
Amendment,
With,
the agreement, amendment, what's we're looking for?
I don't know what the word is, but basically, we're doing it, approving it, subject to you and Walter working out a very simple document that confirms cooperation for whatever we try to do relative to like seeking federal help or state help, things like that.
Would an email or a letter from me on behalf of the cooperative as counsel for the cooperative suffice is my question.
As long as Walter agrees with it.
Okay.
As long as Walter...
Be fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Just one more thing on that issue. I have the original subordination. Can I, for signature so that we can have it for closing, can we?
Oh, you need a
Well,
sign?
there was a change to it because your attorney astutely caught incorrect book on where the original mortgage was recorded, and that's been changed. So I want to make sure you have the correct one.
Pretty sure I do, because he sent me an update, but we'll just double check it.
Walter, is it okay for us to pass around and sign, or do we just?
Yeah,
do
it
it?
actually has a place for just the board chair to sign it.
Okay.
So if you
I don't know.
so authorize.
Okay.
Yeah, this has the same book and page.
Let's do it.
It all comes back on Hal, he signs it.
Do we want to amend that motion to authorize Hal to sign?
Yes.
I made the motion, right?
Yeah.
So I'll amend do I need to retract the first motion and make a new one, or can I just amend?
No, we just.
So I'll amend the motion to include permission for the chairman to sign.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Great, thank you. So, bye, right?
Thank you for your patience, information.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it. No?
Yeah, we felt a lot better seeing the information.
You're welcome. You're certainly welcome. Would it be okay if I took the document and held it in escrow pending Walter authorizing me to release it to the bank?
Great. And again, thanks for your help, too. Okay, so that's that one. So now I'm going to go back to the minutes of the prior meeting. Does anybody have any suggested edits or changes? Let's get them out of the way first.
I do.
Go ahead, Tim.
On page 3, line 18, I was talking about Lucas Pond, not Dennis Pond. I know we had some trouble on Dennis Pond, but
Yeah,
I said Lucas Pond.
okay. Who's keeping track of that? Walter, you are?
That's
Paul. Paul will take care of those corrections.
You got that, Paul? Okay.
So page 3, line 18, Instead of Jennings Pond, it was Lucas Pond, so not a biggie. Thank you.
Okay, anything else by anybody? Matt?
Page 1, line 44, we just need to probably mark the abstention, which was me.
You. So identify the abstainer as Matt. Okay, that's good. Anything else, Matt?
Nope.
Jim, how about you?
Nope.
Okay. I have a couple. If you'd please take a look at page 2, line 46 and 47. And it has to do with what we just talked about. And all I'm saying is line 46 and 47, I think should just simply state, we asked for more information. You know, it's a little, the wording is a little bit convoluted, and I think if we could just say, you know, we came back and said we need some more information, and, you know, then we'll take it up at the next meeting. Just please simplify that. And then on 6 of 7, 6 of 7, line 18. 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of 7, line 18. I commented, my comment, I think the essence is there, but I think we should just say, look to Bob's example, not my example, because I'm the one saying, I think we could all learn from watching how Bob conducted himself at the meeting. So if you'd indulge in that change too, I'd appreciate it. Anything else? Okay, if not, how about a motion to approve these minutes as we discussed?
So move.
Second.
Second? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Terrific, thank you. Okay, moving on, the consent agenda. Walter, do you want to read that off, please?
Yes, the consent agenda for July 27, 2021 includes an accounts payable manifest dated July 21, 2020, batch number 17723 for $911,233.44, and the majority of that includes a payment to the school district in the amount of $800,000. We just filled in the rest. That was the most significant that I recall. We also have a payroll manifest dated July 28th, 2021, batch number 17740 for $80,484.71. We have some property tax exemptions for approval. We have 3 veterans tax exemptions, one for William Fowler, one for Stephen Keenan, and one for Michael Soder. We also have an intent to cut for Michael Marino, a land use change tax for Sarah Bonham, a land use change tax for Stephen Sosi, a yield tax for Anthony Pasquale, a yield tax for Johnson Boulderson Revocable Survivors Trust, and we have the unlicensed dog warrant for 2021.
Okay, as before, if anybody wants to take a item off the consent agenda and discuss and vote on it separately, please speak up.
Are they waiting for a signature? Or they're all set? Those-
No, I think they're just talking on this.
I don't know if they were waiting for
They
the...
have the signature.
Okay.
I guess they're waiting for the rain to light up.
That might be. Yeah, oh, geez, yeah. Okay, so the one thing I would just note, Walter, is I believe Mr. Soder also is not just a veteran, but also a solar exemption, because we have a letter in there to that effect. And I did see on his that the solar is also checked.
I'm not so sure that wasn't previously approved, but
Well, that's why I was wondering. It's in there, so that's what I was thinking. Yeah, and when I scroll up just above the letter in the packet that Paul sent out, it's the solar energy systems exemption in addition to the vet. And
Tax.
down at the bottom where, what's our assessor's name again?
You got a letter here from,
Jeff, yeah. Jeff even says recommend vet plus solar.
Yeah, so that should be added then.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So how about we have it as amended then with that point? Everybody comfortable with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, we're just trying to make sure everybody knows what we're voting on, including the public, and it's clear. So you're comfortable, Walter?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Oh, first I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Second by Jim. Discussion? Matt?
So I know there's been a lot of conversation around town pursuant to some of the dog licensing stuff, and I just want to say that much of that process is driven through RSA, and we have very little local control over that entire process. So for those who don't like certain parts of it or the entire thing, I just want to make it clear that we're not the ones making those rules. So
Talk to your state rep.
exactly.
And please come in and register your dog.
Yes.
It's just extra effort, and for the amount that we get paid for that, it does not cover the
go right
amount.
online, click, they send you the tags, like 2 days, you're done.
Yeah. Okay, so any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that passes 4-0. Okay, Cheryl, we got a couple items for you.
Yes.
So first up, you want to go over the quarterly financial report.
Sure.
You have to introduce yourself in your position.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Cheryl, please introduce yourself and state your title also, please.
Cheryl Eastman, Finance Director.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me, Walter.
Got to keep an eye on
Well, as a matter of fact, we should also just say, I mean, now Walter's been here a while, but we also are joined by Walter Johnson, our town administrator. And I'll do that, when I do the roll call, Walter, I will do that next time.
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
The second quarter 2021 report was in your packet, and the revenue, it's just a couple notes I want to make on a couple of things. The revenues that we received through June 30 are up 183,436 over the same time period last year, and that's an increase of 28.41%. In comparison to the actual revenue compared to the estimated revenue, we're at 48.25%. So that sounds like we haven't quite made it to half, but it's important to know that in December is when we receive our largest single revenue of Meals and Rooms
Meals and
tax.
Room.
So it's actually in a pretty good position.
Good.
The expenditure report is an overall remaining balance of 55.9% of the budget as of June 30, which isn't bad. We don't know, obviously, what is going to happen for the next 6 months, so it's going to get interesting when we get to the end of the year. But we are certainly keeping an eye on that every week as we do expenditures, keeping track of that. And the cash flow projections remain slightly higher than the historical actuals have been, so that is in a pretty good place. Are there any questions?
I know in the additional analysis that you did, you certainly included the spending that we are going to have on the roads in the budget. Did you encumber any of the road work in the, sort of standard financial report? Or is that yet to be done or yet to be figured out?
No, I haven't done an encumbrance in the system, if that's what you're asking me.
Yes, exactly.
No, just on my spread projected expenses report.
Thank you. So
Do that when we have a contract. We don't have a signed contract yet.
Okay.
Waiting
Good
for
point. Good point. Yeah, you said. Yeah,
Been sent out, we just haven't received it back yet.
Okay, good, good. Anything else we should know about the finance report, Cheryl?
No, just those were kind of the highlights. Just wanted to let everyone know that we are watching it very closely as far as the expenses, and the revenue increases, that's a good sign, but we're definitely keeping track of the expenses.
Yeah, well, we did have some concerns like last year, especially with COVID and people, whether they were able to work or not, and therefore pay their taxes, pay their car registrations and stuff like that. So it's good to know that we're doing okay. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
good sign.
I think what we had feared didn't come true, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the financial report. How about the finance software replacement?
Yes, let's talk about software. I looked at 4 different companies for software, did demos of all 4 of their systems, talked with other towns that are using the various systems, and I gave you a comparison spreadsheet which basically lined them up side by side, and I spoke with Walter, and I would like to recommend that we go with the Municipal Technology Systems, or MRI.
Right.
The reason I am very excited actually to have a chance to go with them is their software seemed very, very easy to use, intuitive. The reports were clear and crisp and not a lot of confusion. In some of the other companies, I had an issue with some of their reporting formatting. It's also the least expensive price overall compared to both the initial purchase price and the licensing over the years. And they are local, they're right here in New Hampshire, so if there's any changes with New Hampshire law and whatever that might affect us, they're on top of it, as opposed to going with a company that's from Michigan or Oregon or wherever. And they seemed very eager to work with us, and I think that this is definitely the direction that we should be going.
Okay, questions by the board?
So this is like software that can be implemented in all the computers we have? We have to update any, like, technology in mind, so...
No, we don't have to update any hardware, any servers, and it's cloud-based, so they're going to host it, so we basically would log in, which is an added benefit, especially how we learned through COVID that if you can't be in the office, it's nice to still be able to work. And it's good for the remote departments as well, that they can log in.
Thank you.
Jim, any questions? Matt?
The fact that she likes the cheapest option best makes me very happy. So I got nothing to say.
Happy
So let's do
coincidence.
this. Yeah.
Well, I just want to confirm, MRI is also who we've used sometimes to provide, like, for instance, the interim finance
Correct.
help. So in my mind, that's an added indication that...
Who we
they-
found Walter through.
Yeah, and also John Scruton. So, they get good feedback, they're working with the folks. And I think that really says something in my mind because, they have, especially as Cheryl mentioned, they're New Hampshire-based and they have the people out there working in New Hampshire. And I think that is a tremendous advantage from the perspective that every state, that
A
you
little
try,
different.
yeah, they're just a little bit different, and there's all these little quirks and stuff. The only question, so I think from a perspective, that perspective is good. The real question I've got is I'm looking at the total initial purchase cost, and it's $63,000 or $64,000 in round numbers. And we put aside, or we had from the previous update that we didn't do, order of magnitude $23,000 or $24,000. So
Or like 35.
The price
You're
is
looking at the wrong column.
$35,000.
I am?
Yeah.
You're looking at
35.
the price for the BSNA software.
Oh, excuse me.
That's
I
okay.
am looking at the wrong column. I withdraw my question, Your Honor.
Moving on.
It might be good to just walk through the breakdown so you understand that, what the cost is. So the base cost of the software purchase is $30,000, okay? The implementation, which is basically taking all our existing data and transferring it over to the new system so we have the historical data still available for, look back and planning and budgeting and so on and so forth. That's a one-time $7,500 fee. The training, again, that gets everybody up to speed on how to use the new software in terms of the purchase order system and so on. So that's $4,500. Again, that's a one-time fee. They allowed us, after we sat down and negotiated with them a little bit, a $7,000 discount, kind of a return customer, because I purchased their software in another town, so they were gracious enough to extend that to us. So that puts the initial cost at, down to $35,000. And then, of course, like the software we have now, we have ongoing support fees annually, which are roughly $6,000, which is less than what we're currently paying.
It is less than what we're currently paying.
For ProFund by about
$1,200 roughly.
by about $1,200, so we'll be saving on that end. And then we haven't, I don't know, maybe Cheryl has decided as far as the type of installation. We can do a hybrid, server and cloud-based, or we can have it completely cloud is more than likely the direction we will go in, and so forth. So there'll be a few variants in terms of the different options that we might select. So so in terms of how we will pay, basically it'll be paid over a 3-year period where we utilize the funding that we currently have in the capital reserve account. We'll utilize the funding that we have in the operating budget for some of our IT expenses, and then the balance will be over the next 2 years incorporated into the support fee. So they were more than cooperative in terms of working with us to get the system on board sooner than later. And if everything goes well, the plan is to go live with this system as of January 1st, the beginning of the fiscal year of '22. But it takes about 5 months, which is about what we have to integrate all our existing data. So just so there's a clear understanding about how this all works out in terms of cost and so forth.
And there's other towns out there right now using this?
Yes.
Doing good? Okay.
Yeah, they've added more and more towns. The town I worked for previously actually was kind of almost like the beta site for the first venture, and I basically got all the bugs out of it. No, not necessarily, but it was a good process, and they worked well with our organization to, get the product on board. But now there's, I think they're approaching maybe a dozen communities
Right around there, yeah.
that they're either talking with or have already implemented the software. So, and the programmer lives just down the road in Portsmouth, so easily accessible to get, not a sales representative, not a support person, but get the real McCoy to actually come and handle any issues that we might have. So, I'm comfortable in supporting Cheryl's recommendation.
Jim, questions?
Nope. I'm good with it.
Jim? Matt?
No.
Okay. So really, we have a tight year. You're saying we can do this all with what monies we have, and it's not a detriment implementing it this year in terms of making it more difficult to meet our obligations, because, from Cheryl's analysis, we're pretty close this year.
Right.
So-
And like I said, we'll be utilizing basically the money that's in the
fund.
capital reserve fund
Yeah.
for the implementation portion and the initial purchase of the software, portion of the purchase of the software, and then obviously budgeting for the support and the balance over the next 2 years.
Okay. So what do you need from us, Cheryl? A motion to approve this approach, or do we need to approve a PO, or how does this work?
If you could basically approve the recommendation and authorize the expenditure, we'll prepare the PO for signature for the next meeting in the signature file.
Okay.
Don't move.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope, thank you for your input and, looking into everything, so it helped out a lot.
So, all those in favor? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate the real, I mean, it looks like you really dug into this, and we appreciate it.
I'm excited to have a system that will have much more capability than we have now, so.
Just out of curiosity, if we're loving it in a couple of years, do you think that it would be functional for the school district down the road, or is it too municipal-based and wouldn't necessarily function for the school?
I don't believe that they do any school.
I spoke with Glenn Waring, was here and
Yep.
then still at the school district, talking about what they had and so forth, and they require a much more robust
They're different
system
beasts, yeah.
for this. They would be on the line of what we have now, a Tyler product that would be much more robust than what we have for our simple, to a certain extent.
Sure. No, I'm just always looking for
needs.
economy of scale when possible.
Yep, no, we did look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Stay dry.
Okay, Walter, I guess we'll go up, pull up the TA report at this point. Do you want to go through your items?
I sure will. Let me just get back on page here. All these people batting out of order again.
I just had some before I got here.
Aha, here we go. So in terms of staffing, we do have one applicant that's been interviewed for the part-time position at the transfer station. I'd like to discuss that with you in non-public at the end of the meeting. We're still, just to mention, we are back at full staff at the transfer station in terms of our returning to part-time people. We still have one vacancy, which is the one that we're working on now. We're still looking for a painting contractor for the community center and the library. Anybody has any spare time? Wants to do a little painting? We're still looking. The 2020 fiscal audit report actually was delivered as of today, and I believe I forwarded on an electronic copy to everybody. We have a few hard copies if any of the board members would like a hard copy. And then I also forwarded on the management letter that went along with it.
Walter, along those lines, do we need to vote to release that to the public?
You should, because it is, specifically directed to the board with a recommendation not to, extend it beyond, the board's use, but I know traditionally the board has done that in the past, so I won't release it without your authorization, so.
It's the town folks' money, they paid for it, and my sense is if they applied a right-to-know request, they get it anyway. So I'm going to ask for a motion to release the governance letter.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, second, discussion?
Well, I think I asked the exact same question last time we had this discussion a year ago. What would be the downside to releasing it?
Well, I think we talked about this, as you said, in the past. I think the reason that they recommend it be for the board's use only is that it does address management items which the board's responsible for as far as the internal operations of the town. So, in this particular case, there's nothing there that's, surprising or could lead to further investigations of individuals, et cetera. So I think that's the reason why they do that, in order to be able to communicate in confidence, basically, to the board about any findings that they have that they're concerned about and so forth. So I think that's really why they put that statement in there.
Well, no, I mean,
think
given
it's
the
a
fact
good
that there's
question.
nothing in there that would cause any sort of,
No, I get it.
issue, I prefer to be as transparent as possible when we can, so I would like to release it to the public, seeing as there's nothing in there. I think if it were a different story and there was something that was going to lead to further action, then we'd hang on to it for a longer period of time.
Or deal with it in a different
Or
manner.
deal with it in a different
Yeah.
manner. So, for me personally, I'm apt to support releasing that.
Further discussion? If not, all those in favor of releasing the gov letter, then please raise your hand. Okay, so that passes unanimously. May I ask a related question on the actual report itself, Walter? It talked a little bit about the different reports that were lacking as of the end of the year, and obviously Cheryl just joined us at the end of the year and has now, at this point, gone through quite a few different policies, procedures, and stuff. Do we believe we have those all covered now?
Yes. Yep.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Good.
And I've traditionally invited the auditors, representative to come up and, review the audit with the board, and we'll schedule that sometime either in August or September. So you can ask, specific questions about the report or whatever, unless you prefer differently.
Let's not exercise them unneedlessly. Let's ask the board, if you have questions, read it a little more carefully. It came out late, so read it a little bit more carefully. Let's see how many questions we have and whether we really need to call them in.
Okay.
No, I don't think we need to exercise them if we have either minor questions or none at all.
All right, great. Just an update on the Harvey Lake Dam. Did go ahead and execute a agreement with a surveyor to start the field work and research to determine who owns the dam. So that is underway now, and hopefully that'll be on his schedule for sometime in August. The town website update, you all, along with the department heads, should have received a link, and I think you all did, because everybody seemed to have commented back about the new design, and I think that it is a big improvement, and it does need some tweaking. So the process at this point is we're going to forward all the comments that we received from both department heads as well as board members to the person that's in charge of designing it and so forth, and hopefully, he'll see what he can do about incorporating those comments into the new site. And hoping that we can work through that here through the next few weeks and get it up and going, by the end of August.
Wow.
So that's the, he's got a lot of the information already migrated over. So that's the goal at this point in time. So appreciate the feedback. If you haven't had a chance to give some yet, then please do. On the Route 4 Bow Street drainage issue, I met with the district engineer for District 6 with New Hampshire DOT. He stated that the department is willing to work with the town to help solve the problem, but admits it will be challenging trying to get the required permits from DES in order to discharge a closed drainage system into the brook, which will be is east of Lower Bow Street. So he was going to have one of his staff take a look at that and see what the possibilities might be, chatting with DES about getting the permit, because if we can't do that, then we're back to square one already. So they do not necessarily support a direct discharge into a brook these days from, from drainage, especially road drainage. They like to see it filtered somehow through some type of a brook or grass swale or something like that, which in this particular case wouldn't be something that we could do, but there could be some type of an interim treatment facility that could be installed, before it discharges into the brook, that would, take out sediment and things like that, and maybe some contaminants from the road, salt and that type of thing. But it's not going to be an easy task to get the permits to do that. So beyond that, we're really going to be struggling to find a good resolve for that problem. But
So it doesn't get resolved. She's still pumping water on the street as we speak right now, as she was pumping out this morning when I went to work, so that's, what's our next course of action with that?
good question, Tim.
So that's something we need to think about also. It was pumping out this morning when I went to work at 6:30.
Did we send a note to stop that? Did we send a note requesting that they stop it?
We put a cease and desist, yeah. So,
Yeah.
still pumping out, even in the summertime, she's still pumping. Imagine just kicked on just now, so.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
You know?
There was 3 of them running the other day.
Yeah.
I understand, so.
So, I mean, hate to say it, this is August, September, and October. She got 3 months for us. Things start to tighten up. So we got to come up with a solution. This ain't gonna happen this year. I can tell you the way the state works. So,
Is there, well, King,
what's our legal? Maybe talk to that gentleman. You know, I don't know. Hey, I'm not having ice pumped in that road again this year.
Walter, what do you think our options are? I mean, I think Tim's right. It might be difficult to get the state.
Accident's gonna be our fault because it's our road.
Yeah, I don't know what the interim solution is. I mean, this is a long-term solution. As Tim said, would take, it's something they could do with probably their maintenance budget. You know, what they were talking about was, you know, we would partner with them, and they might supply the materials, and we would, you know, contract for the installation and so forth. But, yeah, as you say, by the time it gets approved by DES, you know, we'll be well into next year. I don't have a good answer for, you know, other than, you know, obviously there's a statute that if in the event that, you know, you create a situation that makes a hazardous situation in the town right-of-way, then, in the town roadway, then you're liable. And we've made them aware of that, but, you know, other than some other treatment on their property that they would have to be responsible for, I don't think there's a lot of other options, you know. I imagine with the water table there, they probably wouldn't have much luck putting in a dry well or something like that, because I'm sure the water would be at ground level in a pretty short period of time on a rainstorm like this.
I mean, basically what the issue is that the water is accumulating on their side of the road and it can't get to the other side where it would drain down ultimately. Is that correct?
I think what's happening, just from assessing the site, is that, you know, there's the water that's running off of Route 4
Right.
that's coming into their property and making its way into their basement. And so, obviously, in order to keep their basement from flooding, they're discharging it out to wherever they can to get it off their property, so it doesn't just make a vicious circle, which ends up being the road. And it used to be that they used to be able to discharge it into a culvert that I guess was a private culvert, from what I understand, Tim, that was installed under the road to disperse it across the street onto the neighbor's property. And when the culvert either collapsed or broke, obviously the property owners realized that, my property is a lot drier now, because they're not taking on that water, so it didn't repair the culvert, from what I understand. So that's a saga.
Jim, did you want to say anything? My only suggestion would be to talk to the landowner that's on the other side and see if they'd be amenable to allowing us to make improvements on that side, to either make a clear swale or install a better culvert or something. Because it sounds like, you know, he might be or she might be resisting from either a keeping their property dry perspective or perhaps a cost perspective. And maybe if we are willing to help support, you know, by Chris digging or doing something to help alleviate, at least on the cost side, and doing it in a manner that still keeps the property dry, maybe we can get some relief.
It's not our water, it's the state's water.
Oh, and that's why you're saying we need to get the...
State's water, so we're not gonna flip the whole, you know what I mean? I see where you're coming from, but.
Yeah, okay, but
It's the
so what you're
state's
saying is the
water.
state's water and they aren't handling it.
Well, again, we brought it to their attention,
Yeah.
they understand the situation, they're willing to work with us. It's just, the best solution is two catch basins, one above and one below the intersection, to collect the water that would also collect the discharge coming out of that property, and then close draining it down to the brook. But as I said, there's some environmental questions there that could be deal breakers.
Well-
And I understand that, Chris has talked to the property owner across the street and didn't get a very warm reception about resuming that discharge back on his property, so
Yeah.
And
whether we do it or not.
I talked to Dave, the foreman of the state shed the other day. I had to swing and ask him another question, like, that when somebody hit the guardrail down by that place a while ago, he pulled his state pickup truck into that guy's yard just to put cones and signs out, and the guy came unglued. So,
Okay, but I think you helped clarify. It really requires the state, and the state's going to take a while. So we need,
it ain't gonna happen this year, so we have to figure out what to do with that sump pump, to pumping water on that street all the time, especially this winter. That's gonna be a solution pretty quick.
yeah, okay. Well, I guess we're going to have to ask you and Chris to make a recommendation next meeting, if you could, please.
Well, I got a question about why is the state thinking it's an environmental issue, because salt would go in that brook anyway? They're pumping water out of their basement. They're not adding any kind of environmental contaminants. So why couldn't,
But it
like you
needs-
said, put a catch basin on both sides?
It needs to pick up the water that's coming off the highway. Okay, and obviously that includes contaminants from, vehicles as well as from salt and so forth. And they won't, like they used to, intentionally discharge directly into a brook without some type of filtration, whether it be natural or mechanical of some sort.
Okay.
So that's the question, and that's the item that needs to get resolved.
So the issue isn't really with her pumping water, or whoever it is, it's the state not wanting to fix that because they may put more contaminants in the brook.
No, that's not what I said. They're willing to help fix the problem, okay? The solution, the one obvious solution, and probably perhaps the only solution, is going to be environmentally challenging because of discharging that drainage water directly into, whether it's coming off of that sump pump or whether it's coming off of Route 4 or Bow Street. That's going to be the challenge, is to come up with a permit in order to do that, or a system that will be acceptable.
Okay.
Yes.
I get that, I'm just confused, it's happening anyway. So I mean, when it rains and it's winter, it's still coming off the road going in the brook anyway.
Exactly, but again, it's the intent, it's the intentional discharge that, if you
Right.
can do something different, they're going to want you to do something different.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think Tim basically stated it. It's the state's problem. We're willing to work with them, but it's going to take a while, so we're desperate for a interim solution, at least for this upcoming winter season. So please,
See what we can do.
be creative.
Want to mention the roadside mowing, as you know, we've approved the contract for that. That's scheduled to begin the third or fourth week of August. They'll be doing 50% of the roads this year, as you know, and then the remaining 50% will be done next year.
it's not on the west side, right?
I'm not sure.
I'd have to look at the list, to tell you the truth. Once we have a firm date of when they're coming, we'll post, which roads are going to be done, obviously, so people will be aware.
Do we have a chance to talk to them about the fields?
They haven't come over yet. Once they come over, we'll get a chance to talk about that.
Great, thank you.
Just some assessing updates. Jeff Earls, our town assessor, is reporting that sales continue to be brisk and properties are selling at an average of about 25% of our 2020 assessments, above our 2020 assessments. So that's based on approximately 77 properties that have sold between October 1st of 2020 and July 22nd of 21. We're going to continue to monitor this through September, which is the cutoff date for when the new state sales analysis is done to find out where we are from a compliance standpoint of view. And you also received a letter from Jeff regarding the USPAP, or the Uniform Standard Professional Appraisal Practice Manual, which was completed in conjunction with last year's reevaluation. And that's available for review in the assessing office by the board or the public, if you've got absolutely nothing to do and
It's riveting.
insomnia, that might cure it.
Watch paint dry.
So,
Well, Walter, question on that? If nobody else has questions? Previous assessment, we said we were going to keep an eye on things, and if we thought things were really escalating rapidly, make a recommendation to do a reassessment every year instead of every 5 years.
An update, yeah.
Yeah, what's your thinking on that?
well, I think we'll know better come the end of September as we work through budget season and so forth, because obviously, there'll be a cost associated with that. So I think we continue to keep an eye on that, and once the September cutoff, comes into play, that'll be, at the beginning of budget season. We'll watch it as the statistics are put together and see where we are, and see if we have to go in and do some statistical updates on particular types of property. Obviously, from what I could see, waterfront properties are still driving, that,
So maybe just work on those, maybe, if appropriate,
yes, yep,
instead of doing all of them.
right,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, so September is the time frame to start thinking about that.
Yeah, September, October, as I say,
Okay.
usually the state cutoff date, I think, is around the 20th or the 30th of September, in terms of when that's their look-back window, September back to
Right.
the previous October. And it's when they take all the sales that have occurred in town and use that as the data source for what our ratio is from sale price to assessed valuation. So, but I've seen some of them, and I have them available if you want to stop in to take a look at the 77 different properties, but
We
it's
trust
pretty
your judgment.
scary.
We trust your judgment. Just let us know far enough in advance, because I think there was, well, Jim, you weren't on the board yet, but I think for the rest of the board members, there was general consensus that, we want to keep a close eye on it and not wait in terms of acting, and not wait in terms of them getting too far out of line.
Yep.
So give us some advance warning, and let's make sure we,
Yeah, that's what this was about, was just really trying to, keep an eye on what was happening in the market. And as I say, a lot of them are, anywhere between 15 to 40% under what their properties are selling for, so. And we just did this last year, so it tells you what's happening in the market.
right.
So moving on to the road surface management plan, Bob Strobel, who's our volunteer consultant, and Chris Brown, our DPW foreman, and I met with representatives from the Stratford County Regional Planning Commission to kick off the RSMS update process. The field observation work will begin mid to late August, and a preliminary draft plan is expected to be available in early October. So that process is underway. We had a good meeting talking about, some of the different strategies and so forth that the town has deployed in the past as far as treatments, and we also encouraged, some new methods to be looked at and so forth. So I think it's going to be a good process in order to get us, an updated plan that's reliable, has good data, and also gives us some options in terms of how we can go about, maintaining the good roads, which is key, and how we can restore the ones that are beyond maintenance at this point. So that process is underway.
Do you have any sense of the timing on that, Walter, to finish it up?
Well, as I said, they'll start in mid-August to do the field work. It'll only take them about a week to do the observation piece. They basically drive every road, make an assessment every, I think, 1,000-foot increment or whatever, and then take that data and import it into the computer model that they use to create the reports and so forth. And then they'll come back to us and we'll sit down and talk about different conditions and that type of thing and potential treatments, and they'll incorporate that into the model and so forth. And so it'll be a process to get the final plan, but I think we'll have a draft plan, sometime in early October. It might be a little later than that, depending on how things go. But, we don't have a ton of mileage in this town, so that's town. So it should be fairly easy to get it, moved along quickly.
Do you think that we'll have something good that we can use for the budgeting process then?
Oh, yeah. Again, we're not going to have it on day one, but by the time we're finalizing the budget, the plan will be finalized. Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
much needed.
Good to get back on track. Be good to get back.
Yeah, it really will. Good. Thank you for pushing that along.
And then, as I believe I made you aware, we did, due to heavy rains, have some flooding in the lower level. It came in a couple of different areas, actually. It came in the bulkhead on the back side of the building, and it came in the entrance to the town clerk tax collector's office. Rainstorm similar to this, but a little more lengthy, apparently overwhelmed the drainage that's underneath the ramp that takes you into the building that created the water coming in. And so Servpro came in and they did the restoration management to the point where they dried everything out and had to cut out some sheetrock up a couple of feet to prevent, which is a kind of a sponge wicking type of thing, to prevent any issues that might develop in terms of mold over time. And so they are done with their piece. I've got our contractor that we've been using for the other improvements coming in to repair the sheetrock. Actually, I think he's going to start tomorrow. And then we'll have to get somebody in about the carpets and likely replace all the carpets down there. And hopefully we'll be back in business there. Obviously, the insurance company, Primex, we're working with them to
Are we
cover.
better off to put carpet or put like tile and area rug, just if something happens again, or is it cost 50/50?
I don't know. I mean, there's two offices that are carpeted plus the conference room. Everything else is tile.
Put down some linoleum and call it, get a squeegee, or
I don't know. It's something that we can talk about with, staff downstairs and see what their thoughts are. Obviously, it's a little less forgiving as you spend time on your feet, that type of thing. And, of course, a little less warm, in terms of dampness, that type of thing. But we could certainly have a conversation about that.
Something to consider, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then we're working to address the failure in the drainage and what happened there. Haven't quite determined that yet, but
Walter, can we, as we're addressing that drainage issue at that entrance, can we just double check that entrance for ADA compliance?
we can check it.
I think he knows the answer already.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not.
I'm just concerned as we're doing work in that area, it might constitute renovation that would then put us on the hook for updating that entire.
Yeah,
entrance.
it's certainly not going to, it would have to exceed, a certain amount of dollars, which I don't think that would be the issue, but, we can take a look at it and see, how far, one way or the other it is.
Okay.
And then just the upcoming meeting schedule, we've got regular board meetings scheduled for August 10th and August 24th. And I think that's all I have at the moment.
Okay, good. Well, making progress on a lot of fronts, Walter, thank you.
A lot of moving parts, but, at this point, things are holding together pretty well.
Next on the agenda is the town-owned property. So Walter, do you want to walk through what you sent out to us? Or did you say that there was an update later after that?
So I did send out an update yesterday. Again, this has been a educational process for me, and, as we reach out to multiple sources to confirm that what we're doing is right, in terms of, the different properties and not selling what we shouldn't be selling and so forth. I think we're really getting down to the, to the final list of what we're going to have available to sell. And so,
That came out yesterday, you said?
yes, yep.
Okay, I guess I printed out the wrong thing then. How does the board want to, what I'd really like to do tonight, if we can, is push this to an initial list of items to be sold. And then, Walter, would you contact the auctioneer and start talking with them about it? And, like, going over, like, okay, the two Blaisdell ones, those should be combined as one, sold as one, and that type of thing, get all that sort of worked through so that we can just keep it moving forward, or?
Yeah, my recommendation was going to be to actually handle the abutters sale first, okay?
Okay.
And whether we do that, in-house or we do it through the auctioneer's process, because it's going to be really just directing the opportunity to, the abutters.
Right.
So I think, based on the number of properties that we have, which I think is, maybe 15 at the most,
Right.
that we can go ahead and get those notices out. The only thing that we need to do, obviously, is, determine what, if any, thresholds are going to be required, and then what conditions are going to be required in terms of, there's some of these that have buildings on them, and whether we're going to require the buildings be raised, which I would certainly recommend, within a certain length of time. Those are the type of things that we need to determine ahead of time before we get people interested in properties and then throw all these conditions on them.
How are we coming up with a starting figure?
Well, there's a couple options on that. One of them would be to ask for the minimum amount to be the total that's due, which is on that far right column. But I got to tell you, that there's a couple here that's, I'm looking at land and building, but if you have to tear down the building and things like that, you might not get that. And let's just reiterate, this is the maximum amount that we're going to get, net to us, because let's say, there's other fees and stuff. Well, we have to pay those. So really all we're going to get back is what you see in that far right column. Everything else like that creates an additional effort to go find who the last person is that is owed the money that's over and above what our costs are. So especially on these where I'm not sure you're going to get a lot of money. And second, I guess I'd say, Walter, if you were thinking about having a requirement that abutters must adjust and incorporate it into their existing property as opposed to sell it as a separate lot, well, then the values on these are basically, we're saying $2,000 an acre if you add to your lot. Well, it'd be nominal money. And it's, Walter, I don't know. Maybe that's the minimum you set. And you.
Yeah, I think the biggest risk or challenge is that, if you sell it at an absolute and, somebody buys it for $10,000 and flips it for 60, that really doesn't, bode well for the effort that we made to sell it. But then again, we're not in the real estate business either. Our goal is to, recoup as much as the lost costs and get it back on the tax roll.
Exactly.
But, again, it's another twist that comes into the equation that I would just hate to see that happen to us,
Well, I think what you're really saying is, there's the choice, as I'm hearing you talk this through, is we can leave them as lots, and, then there could be that we end up with a lot of new building permits on lots that are very marginal in size, but we would recoup perhaps that $10,000. If we have the stipulation that you buy it as an abutter, you must absorb it into your plot, I can't see people giving more than a few $1,000s, because that's all it would raise their value by. Am I missing something on that, or?
No, I mean, well, again, I'm not so sure the $2,000 backland
that's
formula
true.
works, because
Yeah.
it obviously enhances the value. If
Yeah.
you double your acreage,
That's true.
that certainly enhances your property as far as marketability as well as
Yeah. It's
market
just-
value in general,
well, especially if it's a small lot to begin with.
which they all are.
Oh, well then, yeah,
For
yeah.
the most part. So
I got, one that's eight or so, but
Well, then, if that's the case, why don't we initially ask the back taxes? I mean,
There's still going to be some that, so for example, there's one that I'm actually surprised to not see on the abutter sales side, but like Ash Street, because I used to live down there. There's one on Ash Street where there's an existing structure that's literally falling in. It's, how big is it? 0.17.
Yeah.
Right, so the value of that land minus what it's going to cost them to get the falling down structure off, just it becomes a wash if we go looking for whatever is owed on that. So I don't know, it's a little tricky to use a one-size-fits-all formula on some of these.
yeah, and maybe that's something that we have
Oh,
to
I see.
refine a
You're
little
saying
more.
Don't try to create a general rule, go down one by one and say, this is what we're doing.
I mean, as much as I don't love the idea, yeah, I think it's,
Okay, what,
I don't know that a one-size-fits-all approach is going to work here.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree, because there are certain, because they're not all the same. So therefore, it makes it a little more challenging, because they all do have unique. So maybe the thing to do is, if I would go back and basically look at them individually, look at conditions that we would put on them, and then see how they impede, the property and the value of the property, and then determine the, minimum price from there.
yeah, I see now why you said that, because you're absolutely right. One where you have to do a lot of work, or you have to do cleanup, or you have to do something, you're just not going to get as much. But on the other hand, if you got a quarter acre that you're adding a quarter acre to, man, that could be a really nice property then.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to give that away for $500 or $1,000, that's for sure.
Right, and the one that Matt is speaking of, again, one of the conditions would be to raise the structure, but, at least it's an existing lot, it probably has some water and septic on it, perhaps, so it has some other unique value to
Oh,
it
I see.
that may not be something that we just want to say, okay, you're required to merge it.
That's exactly right. So a .17 acre lot with an existing septic plan is different from
Yeah,
an
okay.
acre without one, because you're never going to get a septic
Yeah,
plan.
okay.
So there's a big difference between some of those little camp lots down on Harvey Lake versus
Yeah.
some of the lots up
Okay.
on on Lucas, so I do think it's a,
Well, how do you want to handle it then? I'd be comfortable with Walter making some recommendations that we, you know, he can go through the logic on each of them, or at least put it in one of the fields and send it back out to us. I don't want to keep talking about it. I want to
Yeah,
bring it
no,
to a
I
resolution.
get it. I want something to happen with it as well.
Yep, we just want to get it right, you know.
No, no, definite.
Yeah.
The only other, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only other thought, and I brought it up to you, I think, a week ago, the question of whether we were going to consider neighbors across the street on some of those lake neighborhoods.
Yep.
Because if you look at those maps, that, you know, the property line comes right onto the street sometimes. Are they going to be considered abutters, especially for some of those, like down on you know, Lucas Pond especially?
Yeah, that's, you know, as I said, that's really up to the board. I mean, how you want to, because, you know, there's one definition, you know, for, you know, all, they're just contiguous properties, you know, properties that touch. You know, if you look at, for public notices, it has to be, you know, within a certain
Yeah.
range
Right.
of which typically encompasses, you know, the properties across the street. You're correct, you know, technically each owner owns to the middle, so they're all abutters. So I would say probably yes, that we would include, you know, the ones that are directly across the street.
Well, and, I mean, to that point, if you have a small lot, and let's say you put a garage across the street, have
Or
parking
septic with a
across...
pump system, anything, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that, I think that makes sense. So how do you, I'm afraid to ask this question, but do you want any help from us?
Hey, you know,
Maybe not from you. We'll talk later.
let me take a stab at it and get it into a, you know, a first run,
Okay.
and then I'll send it along.
I guess I
The day
clarified
before
the
the meeting.
situation.
Yeah. I mean, again, you can overanalyze this, and you can just, you know,
That's just,
fish or cut bait, but then again, you know, as I say, you don't want to end up, you know, being taken advantage of either, you know,
Right.
on some of these properties that, you know, have significant value that, you know, somebody comes along and offers you that, you know, $1,000 for it, and you end up having to sell it because you're running an absolute auction, so.
Right.
okay. So do you think we can get at least the abutters set for next meeting?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, then let's target that, and then I'd say, you know, if
I think I can make recommendations on all the lots that
Oh.
have been whittled down to,
including the other list too?
yeah. Yeah.
That'd be terrific. If we could do both of those next meeting,
Yeah.
how long does it take the auctioneer to turn this around once we tell him what we're doing?
It's,
Because you have to advertise and stuff, right?
Yeah, but he said he has such a backlog of inquiries for people
I'm sure.
waiting for him, and at the time I talked to him 2 weeks ago, he had nothing scheduled. So I believe that we could move forward pretty quickly.
You think we could still move forward in August if we did something on the 10th? Or is that too quick?
I'm not sure exactly what his total research requirements are, so that might bog us
Yeah.
down a little bit, but I've had, you know, Carol and I have been working on trying to gather, you know, as much of the support information as possible to take the you know, the prep work down to a minimum, so.
Yeah, all that detailed analysis Carol did, I'm sure is going to help.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do we need, on this, input from the auctioneer in terms of maybe some of these, how to handle them?
I intend to talk with him,
Okay.
probably, you know, later on this week as I work
Oh,
through
as
this.
you work on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so
To
then,
get his thoughts on as well.
I think that's about as best we're going to do, unless somebody has any other suggestions. Okay, so, Walter, that would be really great if next week we could approve the list and move forward with getting that date scheduled.
That's right.
Please.
2 weeks.
Did I say next week? Yeah, I guess I did.
Next meeting.
Next meeting, that's
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
And do we need to take any action on the properties that conservation is asking to retain, or just sort of hang on to them for now?
Well, I think at this point in time, we've kind of determined that a lot of them are already encumbered, and there's really, other than maybe one or two, that we would just makes sense, to retain. I don't think they're going to be something that we're going to incorporate in this sale if we decide later that it's not, practical to keep them.
Yeah, I think if we could err on the side of getting all the ones that are unquestionably need to go,
Right.
if we come up and there's discussion or maybe concerns about keeping some of them, we can have a second round or put it to the voters as far as,
Yeah.
retaining it.
Yeah, I'm going to need something to do next year. So.
Yeah, right. Well, I got a list anyway.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so
Just keep plugging.
we're ready to move forward on that next meeting. Terrific.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be a quicker process, but, with everything else that's going on, and just learning some of the history on some of the stuff is pretty challenging, so.
Yeah, but let's at least get it done right and document it well and then put it to bed so that there's no questions.
We've been waiting long enough, let's do it
Yeah.
the right way, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on then. Or does anybody need a break?
No.
No? Okay. Alternative public meeting participation options.
So, again, just because of the situation that's happening now with COVID and so forth, and, some of the concerns about the new variants and
Right.
and that type of thing, we've got, some board members of different committees and so forth that have expressed some concerns about, coming out and attending, public meetings. And so we've decided that we would start kind of looking at different options as far as how we might, even, members here that might want to participate remotely. Again, nothing's changed as far as the rules or regulations. At this point in time, you still have to have a quorum in person in order to have an official meeting. But, if for some reason, there was, someone wasn't comfortable or had something else going on or whatever and couldn't participate in person, we're trying to set up an electronic way to get people to be able to participate remotely. And I'm not sure how we're making out, Paul, but
Oh, we can't, Paul, you have to identify yourself and state your name.
so that's why we kind of changed the layout a little bit.
I
We're
get you.
experimenting with Zoom, trying to run a meeting within the meeting type of thing, and Steve Roberts was kind enough to come over on Monday and give us some thoughts and ideas, and Paul and Susan are trying to incorporate those into operations that will work. And then at some point in time, perhaps, depending on what happens, if we could maybe open that up to the public and give public access the same way as well, if we're able
Oh,
to.
that would be
perfect
nice.
it.
Yeah.
So the reason it's on the agenda really is because it's not, at this point in time, in the board's rules, to allow a member to participate remotely after stating, a good justifiable reason for not. You just can't, because you want to do the meeting in your pajamas, you just can't stay home and participate that way. It has to be a valid reason. But, yeah,
I miss eating dinner during meetings, I'm not going to lie.
yeah, that probably wouldn't
I
fly.
don't know if you have in your coffee cup at home, but
So it really just requires, it just really, requires the board to, amend their rules in terms of, allowing members, under certain circumstances to participate remotely as long as there's a physical quorum present until things change.
Walter, what would happen if three of us were in the situation where we couldn't come in?
We couldn't have a meeting.
meeting.
So just no meeting then?
Right, yeah.
Okay, well, so do you need a specific motion on this?
Yeah, you should amend the minutes, the rules of, the board's rules, again, created by the board that we just ratified back in the spring. That states, we'll add the statement that, the board has approved the use of, remote participation for board members for justifiable reasons.
We want to leave that to the chair's discretion
In terms of,
to determine what is a good reason or not.
I don't know, I think you want to leave it up, I guess, to the good conscience of the member, I don't know.
Right. I think
too.
you just,
So is this going to conflict with state regulations?
No, this is actually in conformance with state regulations.
Okay, so the state says that you can meet remotely if it meets certain conditions.
Yes,
That's what I'm saying. We,
providing that it's in the rules of the committee or the board.
oh, so we set the rules.
Yes.
Okay, I thought they set the rules and we had to fit in their rules.
No,
We have to have a
It-
physical quorum present.
Right, I know that,
Biggest piece.
but say just 1 week, I'm on vacation somewhere and say, hey, I want to meet remotely. I mean, if I'm
You
gone,
could be
I'm-
here, you could be in Maine at your camp on a computer coming in, yeah.
right, no, I know, but that's what I'm saying, is that a justifiable reason, or we just miss, like, a member's missing tonight, and we just carry on? How are we going to determine what is that valid reason so that people don't kind of abuse that and just, like we said?
Well, that's an interesting question. So the other thought I have is, do we currently have any rules around, what are our attendance rules? Like, if I decide I'm going to check out as a selectman and I'm going to stop coming to meetings, is there any stick in our rules to force me to start showing up?
You miss more than 3 meetings, we kick you out, is there?
I mean, 'cause so, like, Budget Committee has
yeah,
some pretty strict rules around attendance.
yeah. No, I don't think there's anything
When
as
I
far
signed
as,
up, you know, I mean.
you know, there's a process to remove, you know,
Correct.
an elected official, but that's, attendance in a meeting isn't necessarily one of them. I mean, a lot of boards operate with board members that winter in Florida, you know, and that's just, you know, they were elected that way, so therefore that's the way they serve. Obviously, if they change horses in midstream, you know, the likelihood of them getting elected again might not be as good, but there's nothing that, there's no 3 strikes you're out type of thing. Yeah, obviously, it just impacts, obviously, the functional operation of the board. So, yeah, again, I think in most cases, if you start putting brackets around, you know, what's acceptable and what isn't, I think it's really up to the, you know, the good conscience of the board member. I mean, I think if a board member's in Florida traveling and wants to take the time to participate in a meeting remotely and it's possible, then I think that should be acceptable.
I mean, like, if you're going up to your hunting camp in October to go deer hunting, obviously, you know that's coming, let us know, and, you know, everybody's gonna work out. I mean,
Right.
things, obviously, some things come up, family emergency or something like that, but, I mean,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, you're gonna know 2 weeks out what's happening, hopefully, you know, but.
Well, I'll make a motion to allow for remote participation of board members with reason,
Justifiable.
with justifiable reason. There we go.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
A second for discussion?
Yep, go ahead.
This is for our meetings, or like the zoning board plan?
No, this is just for the select
here,
board. They
okay.
have their own rules.
Okay.
Okay, so it's just for us. We're not making it for everyone.
Oh, no, this is just
Oh,
for the
okay,
select
just
board.
for us.
I'm sorry.
The Conservation Commission can decide, just as the Budget Committee can decide?
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I'm sorry.
misunderstood that, because I knew there was like a state statute that you had to fall within, but we can make our own on top of that.
Yep.
Okay,
So it's just for us?
okay. Is that something we think we even need, or we're just doing it as a precaution? Is that why we're doing this?
I'm looking at more as precaution.
It wouldn't hurt
Okay.
to get it organized in case something does happen, you know, at least once we get it implemented, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's good to, before you get in a situation to try to fix it, have something set up.
Then
Okay.
you aren't scrambling.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, yeah.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Just as an aside, so at UNH, we use what's called the Meeting Owl, which is it costs about $1,000, but it's a one-size-fits-all approach to, it's this thing, it just sits in the middle of the room, it's got 360-degree vision, it focuses in on whoever's speaking at the moment, and it has a built-in speaker, and you can hear you, I just looked it up, so it'll pick up audio from 18 feet away, the speaker's good and loud. It's a nice solution and would certainly strike me as a decent expenditure out of the the COVID funds.
Yeah, I think if we're not able to be successful tonight, or somewhere, shortly down the road, then we'll have to look for other IT options. Because I think it's worth investing in, because it could become, obviously a permanent
Yeah.
option. And, who knows what's going to come down the road?
Right.
We just don't know, yeah.
Nobody knows.
Okay, well, I think that was a good decision. Anything else related to that? Any follow-up? If not, then let's move on to the American Recovery Plan Act funding. And I'm anxious to hear what Walter is going to tell us we're going to spend the money on.
Still working on that piece, but, the fog is starting to clear. and
Yes.
the process is getting more understood and clear. The first order of business is to, the board to decide if in fact they want to apply for the funding. There are some communities that aren't, but for what reason, I'm not really sure, but other than the fact they don't want to manage it. Northwood is scheduled to receive $451,000 and $270, I think it is, or whatever, over the next 2 years. The criteria for how to spend it doesn't have to be determined before you apply for and accept the money. That can be developed over time, which I'm recommending it is. We have, for the first tranche of funds, which is 50%, we have through 2024 to spend it. The second tranche, which will come just a year from now, we have until 2026 to spend. So, it's not like the CARES funding that we received, that we had to spend it all, within a 6 or 8 month period. We've got time to do good planning, good evaluation for what the possible uses might be for the money, and obviously make sure that they qualify under the process. So if the board decides to have me go ahead and apply for the funding, I'll go ahead and do that right away. We have to schedule a public hearing to accept the money once it comes in, which I intend to do for the August 10th meeting, along with the donations coming in from the Friends of the Rec for the improvements and additional fixtures for the playground that they're funding. So we can do those both at the same time. So I did provide you with what I received at the latest webinar in your packets in terms of the deadline, as I mentioned, is August 18th. We have to get our application in. I've already started it. I'm hoping that you would agree to go ahead to receive it. We're considered what do they call us? They call us an NEU.
Non-entitlement
A
unit.
non-entitlement unit, so.
Yeah, that just means it comes through the state.
Yeah, exactly. But the good news is the state can't meddle with it. They simply have to pass it through to us. It comes basically directly into our bank account. It doesn't get anything sugared off the top for processing or whatever, and it's not something that we have to spend our money and then request a reimbursement. So,
Right.
now some of the areas that are quite confusing, but again, some are quite clear in terms of how some of the options are that we can
Yeah.
use this. One of the processes we could use is if we had a deficit in our revenues in 2020 versus 2019, for instance, then we would be able to use that delta based on a calculation formula to towards our expenditures for operating budget, for instance. Cheryl did some preliminary calculations today, and actually, we didn't end up with really much of a deficit on our revenues. We actually came in pretty whole and healthy
Right.
from a revenue standpoint of view. So I really don't see that being as one of the opportunities that we're going to have in terms of being able to expand the budget, so to speak, with some of that fundings for this year. The other categories that we can spend the money on have to do with, public health, and some of the negative impacts that occurred in terms of, expenses for equipment and environmental issues and electronics, and similar to the things that were included in the CARES Act.
Can any of it go towards, like, paramedics and firefighters?
We can use them, and as in the second category, the premium pay, but the premium pay this round is really focused more on the non-police and fire people that received it the last time. You can basically give some type of a premium pay compensation to anyone else that worked on the front lines.
Well, I'm thinking in particular that our transfer station by many people was called the sanitation department, and we had to do overtime this year. We had extra costs. There's equipment there, like the front-end loader backhoe, where we had expenses and stuff. Can we apply it towards some of that stuff?
No, as I said, this is a premium pay. So, those people obviously were on the front lines, dealing with the public during the pandemic. We kept the facility open, town clerk, tax collector,
Right.
folks that worked in this office that met face-to-face with the public, even though perhaps through a petition, were at risk, for a health issue.
Yeah.
So, like they did for police and fire, back in the winter,
Excuse me.
there's an option if the board decided to, award a premium pay to those folks for their efforts, and that's one of the qualified opportunities for expending that money. The other thing is some infrastructure improvements, and also things that evolve around the Clean Water Act, which I mentioned, I think, briefly, when we look at the boat ramps
I was just
and
going to say that
the dams and things like that, these would definitely be projects that would qualify.
the surveying costs we could eat after,
Potentially, certainly if it ended up being something we could utilize for assessing the dam condition and also making improvements to it, we could do that.
we could find out that it is our dam, we could use this money to put in work, update it or get rid of it or whatever we had to do to it.
Yep, that's potentially, again, as long as it has a a positive environmental impact is what the Clean Water Act requires. The project that we talked about with Ann Schultz, out on the Gulf Road there, some of that, our portion of that we had agreed to do, I guess, could come out of that.
But you said we don't have to have a list of stuff ready.
No.
Okay.
No, we can take our time. This is a process that we'll have, 2 years.
To figure out.
You don't even have to have it completed in 2 years if you have it contracted or in process. So there's not a lot of pressure to do it, but just wanted to give you an idea of, some of the things that would, potentially fit into those qualifying buckets.
Do you need a motion to keep going with the application, or a thumbs up, or what are we looking?
I think we just wait till he has the application complete and then authorize him to send it in.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and send it in because it's all electronic, so I really need
Oh,
your...
you do need
Or do we
I
have
need
Hal, notify Hal to sign it at the end, or okay it, or we're not here, or?
authorize him.
Yeah, just authorize me. It's, as I said, it's all electronic.
Okay.
So we need a motion to authorize you to submit the request for funding through the,
The Local Fiscal Recovery Fund,
Thank
another
you.
acronym,
Do I have such a motion?
LIFRF.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second?
Second, discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of Walter sending that in and authorizing?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you, Walter.
Realistically, could we even touch a broadband infrastructure project with what we've got?
Well, we certainly could. I mean, that's one of the other, infrastructure qualifying projects. I haven't looked at it close enough to see how we can actually, benefit from that, but that'll be coming along in time, too.
We need to talk about that a little bit, in part because what I'm learning as a result of some severe problems I'm having with broadband. For example, Atlantic Broadband has basically said, this whole area here is a problem. The cables and everything are so old at this point, they can't keep up. I mean, I had somebody out there 10 times, and the last guy, swears it's, the signal's so loud we need to put a filter on it. The next guy comes in and says, oh my gosh, what's this filter doing here? And it's because the wires and the main lines running through town are in such condition that they can't control it.
The prices keep going up and up and up.
Yeah,
I'm getting the same cable, I'm paying like another $100, and I'm getting the same thing I did 6 months ago.
Yeah, so, maybe we can't do it on our own, but maybe there's some things that we could do to, or at least, run, the trunk lines or something like that.
So, Walter, when we do the public notice for the acceptance of unanticipated revenue, or the grant funds there, can we get some of the eligible use language into that public notice, just so we can encourage people to actually come out with their thoughts and ideas? Or
Sure.
do you think that's putting the cart before the horse?
Well, I mean, we certainly can, expand the notice to include, the qualifying categories anyway.
I would just love to give people enough information to come in and really be part of that conversation and say, I think it's really important that we focus on broadband infrastructure, or I think it's really important that we focus purely on clean water.
I think that's...
Instead of, the pro forma, just, here's our public meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, look, nobody came. So
That's good, Matt.
I think that would be really helpful in terms of us as a board trying to set the course for how we're going to spend some of this money.
We'll get the
Yeah, and
feedback.
that certainly can be, ongoing, an agenda item ongoing, or a work session discussion or whatever, where we can,
Great.
get more public input on, which direction they think we should go in.
Great. Okay, so you're going to submit that and come back with the money, right?
Yep.
Terrific.
Just a quick question, what kind of reporting are we going to have to keep up to show that we actually used it appropriately?
So that's one of the things that's always a challenge, but, because of the fact that we're not as big as some of the bigger entities like the cities that are getting the direct funding and so forth. It's
Right.
not, I was looking at that to see where we were on the kind of the food chain of the reporting, and we're down at the bottom, so.
So just under $500,000, 451 something?
Yeah, yeah.
451, 108.
So the reporting's fairly minimal. I mean, it's actually, I think, going to be less than what we just did for the CARES Act.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the category's broader.
Yeah.
And,
Well, then let's get some good ideas and let's get them
There's
done.
$500,000, don't worry about the receipts.
and the state didn't get in the middle of it, too.
Didn't add anything.
Right.
Yeah, good.
But the Treasury, I mean, we have to go with the Treasury guidelines. But they've created a good resource for us to reach out and clarify before we get too far down the road on a project and find out that,
Okay.
this may not pass the test.
Right.
Yeah, but I agree with Matt and others that spoke up. Let's publicize this, start getting some ideas, and, maybe we even ask for it on the new website.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, if not, then let's move on. There's always a slot on the agenda for the task manager, and it's just a reminder of what Walter's working on and a chance to discuss the relative priorities. Obviously, he's worked his way down through quite a few of these things. Thank you. But for the remaining items, I think we've spoken pretty clearly we want some priority on the land sales. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about in terms of priorities relative to how he has them on the sheet here? Anybody? Are we pretty comfortable otherwise with what he?
I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, again, some things, I continue to have to,
Adjust.
push out because of, the different things that come up
Right.
that consume, the time to work on things, but
We're going to get that wage scale done.
we are.
Oh, I guess Cheryl is working on that.
Yeah, she's working on the,
Yeah.
kind of the database for our existing employees and so forth. I've spent time revisiting the Thornton plan that was done in both 17 and updated in 18, which is, I think, is a good foundation, a good model. I've worked with it before. It's really just updating the numbers.
And then getting everybody slotted based on their skill levels. And
Right.
this is the thing that Tim always talks about, being consistent across, work somebody up within their level, not jump them or move them around. And then get everybody slotted and then really consistently use it.
Yep. Plus, we get a stable workforce environment.
Yeah, well, we're making progress on that too.
Yep.
I think we are. Okay, so again, I'll just echo what we talked about earlier. We're really anxious about the land sales and everything else. I think we're pretty comfortable with how you're proceeding. Okay, does anybody have any committee reports that they'd like to make? If not, then we don't have any citizens forum, so I'm going to recommend that we, I guess, vote to go into non-public, take a 5-minute break.
RSA 91,
Well, it's for hiring, correct?
Yeah, B.
B. Any other items? Okay, so it's just for hiring. Do I have a motion to go into non-public for hiring?
do you see it? Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, you see us come back out for any information? Jim can shut off and halt and
Yeah, we should be fine, yeah.
You're comfortable, Jim?
Yeah, I'm going to go up and watch him do it again, and, yeah,
Okay, good.
worked last time.
get out of here, Paul. Appreciate
I will
it.
second Tim's motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to go into non-public for hiring. The strategy will be that once we vote, we take a 5-minute break and then actually go into non-public. And then when we come back out, Jim will start us back up. So, all those in favor?
Needs to be a roll call.
Oh,
Roll call.
thank you, Matt. So, Tim, how do you?
Yes.
vote? Matt?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay, so 5-minute break and then non-public, please.
Don't go through the puddles going home, Paul. No hydrant playing.
I was trying to find the universal formula. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. As soon as you said it, I'm thinking, yeah.
I think we'll have it done in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think we will. That will be a real, that'll really be.
Like Matt said, with that, if we do get that grant, we could use part of that money for our costs for the state. Down there, the station, 5